going on, YouTube? This is Eric Drobel, and I'm going to show you what I've been up to the past couple months, as well as a bit of my workflow on how to do some really subtle idle animations. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Watch the full video. It helps the algorithm even more. Share it with your mothers. That helps your relationship with your mother. So let's take a look. We're still moving ahead with prototype.
Drop!
But in some areas we're heading towards production. For instance, Melanie herself has had her final upgrades, getting her likeness to be what I always was gunning for, as well as getting rid of some strange artifacts that were left over from using the stylized Melanie head to create this metahuman. By starting with the original 3D scan store model that was purchased, with enough finessing was able to get a much closer likeness as well as a much more realistic character. You can see here there's a couple failed attempts going in a bit of a wrong direction, even though it was more realistic. Here are some older Melanies before deciding to go with metahumans. With her new design came the need to finalize her Maya rig as well. Previously, her rig was made with a automatic script that put a rig on, but for production I wanted her body to have a really solid rig. There's going to be a lot of complicated animation, dancing and whatnot, so can't skimp on the rig. For that, I went to M-Gear, re-rigged her, proxy clothes, gave her some proxy hair. The one last thing she needed was a slipper upgrade. Two things. We needed slippers that would work for lower end systems. One major component of the old slipper fur is that it is not at all light. It is very heavy, computer intensive. We wanted a bigger silhouette. That's no longer an issue. Using Blender, I was even able to get a relatively low res proxy fur. So moving towards getting her idle cycle in order, I needed to have a couple tools in place. Anim School Picker is what I use to create the GUIs. 2, Studio Library. This is what I use to save poses. 3, Animbot. It's like my left hand. I need to have it. There's a fantastic retargeting tool. You can take any kind of skeleton, UE4, UE5, Mixamo, whatever, and within Maya, retarget it. Not only do I use this to get my basic mocap layers in, this is also the workflow I use to get the head and neck animation out of the clips that MetaHuman Animator creates. And then finally is this fantastic script, link in the description for all these tools. This script will add some overlap to any one control or control chain that you pick. But in addition to the overlap, you can use it for hanging chains, like a hanging arm, to give it just a little bit more weight. Just a tiny bit of overlap so that some of the jitter is removed. Using the webcam motion receiver tool, I recorded some basic hand idle keep alive animations. I had to reduce the curves pretty substantially because the motion capture quality isn't fantastic, but it did get me what I wanted. Using MetaHuman Animator, I was able to use my iPhone to get some really high quality face mocap. Creating these first-person animations, I want to reduce the Z-axis, in this case the tilt of the head, to almost 0. That axis is the primary contributor to motion sickness. I am using in Engine some stuff to remove this axis, but I imagine there will be scenarios where we don't want the player to have control over the head. There will be some kind of cinematic, and we do want to have a little bit of that Z rotation back into the head so that things feel realistic. But you'll notice, looking at this idle cycle from the front, that is going to be the primary thing that's missing, as well as the head moving up and down, the subtle rotation from the breathing. That's all been really reduced so that the player experience in first person is as smooth and clean as possible. Once the base cycle is done, very subtle face animation, very subtle hand, very subtle body animation, all so that additives can be put on top. We're planning to have her head and neck be able to look around, even her eye direction change as the player looks around. So if there's a lot of heavy movement to start with, that stuff will get a little bit weird as we layer that on. For the light breathing cycle, I took a few of those Mixamo clips, layered them on, experimented to see, how much is okay in the spine, how much is okay in the neck, how much is okay in the head without the player feeling too much extra movement on the camera. So a few things that'll happen. The breathing system will resolve itself quickly. Even if you've been sprinting, you'll probably stop heavy breathing after only a couple seconds. And hopefully that feels okay.
Only hurts my pride.
And I'm seeing lots of things that can be improved. The lips are sort of crashing together a bit too much. The shoulder breathing could be polished a little bit more. We might use a little bit more sympathetic motion on the spine from the breathing. The neck might be a little bit too much back and forward. I imagine when I create the medium breathing and the heavy breathing, that will inform a lot more about how this breathing cycle gets polished. But overall, I'm feeling pretty happy with how it is now and can move on. I hope you found this video entertaining, educational, exotic, or other E-words. If you wanted to support the project, I'm currently jobless, could really use that support. Please head on over to my Ko-Fi where you can make a donation towards the game, or just, follow the YouTube, because that helps too. Thanks all. I want to give a special shout out to all the people who asked questions that were answered in the video or the description. Y'all are great.